Kia ora, annyeonghaseyo, and welcome back to the second day of the Kiwi Chamber's Tech Roadshow for 2021. Fantastic to have you joining us wherever you are in the world. We've got a great program ahead today, but first of all, I just wanted to say a big thank you to the Seoul Metropolitan Government and the Invest Seoul Centre for all their support in helping make this Tech Roadshow a reality this year. So ahead today, got a fantastic program. First of all, we're going to kick off by looking at New Zealand's tech ecosystem and start off with two of our most innovative regions, one right at the bottom of the South Island and then in the North Island around Tauranga in the Bay of Plenty. We'll then have a look at, I guess, New Zealand's broader tech ecosystem and the work that Callaghan Innovation have been doing with their Scale Up initiative. For a slightly different perspective and a very important component to New Zealand and Aotearoa is the growth of our Māori exporters, and we'll be joined by our head of Māori exports from NZTE to talk about what we're doing in that space. That'll be really, really exciting to hear. And then we'll switch gears a little bit and we'll have a look at ESG from a Korean perspective. And one of the drivers and leaders in that space is SK Telecom, Korea's largest wireless carrier, one of Korea's largest companies. And we'll hear from them about what they're doing on the technology front, but to address ESG initiatives and also the challenges that we face in that space. So a fantastic program ahead. If you weren't with us yesterday, we covered a whole range of topics, including 7 fantastic presentations by New Zealand tech startups. And we also heard from leaders here in Seoul around the ecosystem that Seoul government has built and what a welcoming environment this is to do business, but also especially for tech startups as well. Later on this afternoon, we will, or today, we will also be holding a pitching contest for 4 technology companies from Korea and from Seoul, and we've got a fantastic judging panel for that. That won't be covered live on the YouTube channels, but I'll talk a little bit more about what's happening just before we finish the open session. That's a fantastic initiative that brings Korean tech companies and New Zealand companies closer together. So we might kick off now with our first session, which is really looking at around the New Zealand government agencies and regional development bodies that are creating such a vibrant tech ecosystem in New Zealand, supporting startup companies and growing their regions as well. Today we have from Great South, Ella Zhang, from Priority One, Greg Simmons, and then from Callaghan Innovation, Nick Larson. As I said, Great South is based around the southern part of New Zealand, the city of Invercargill and the Southern Province. And we have Ella Zhang joining us live from Invercargill. So if we can dial in Ella now, it'd be great to hear what's happening in your part of the world.
So hopefully you guys can see my slides. Fantastic. Awesome. So Tina koto katua. Ashaniha nika. Hi everyone. My name is Ella Zhang. I'm the Asian Market Development Manager at Great South. So Great South is a Southland Regional Economic Development Agency. We're responsible for regional growth and investment attraction. So first of all, I just want to say a big thank you to Stephen, Gina, NZTE, Kiwi Chamber, Korean Metropolitan Government, Invest Seoul, and all our key partners to make this happen. South Korea is New Zealand's #5 export market and an international leader in technology and innovation. We really appreciate this opportunity to be here today to share our journey and the learnings with you all. I have been to Seoul a couple of times. Absolutely love the culture, friendly people, and amazing food. I could talk about that for hours, but today we only have 10 minutes. So I'll give you a quick introduction of our region and the Great South. My second part of presentation, I will focus on our space operations and advanced data analytics center we operate in Southland. So first of all, where is Southland? So we are located at the bottom of the South Island. We are New Zealand's southernmost region, and also we have the longest coastline in the country. New Zealand's third largest island, Stewart Island, is also part of our region. The regional capital is Invercargill. We do have a domestic airport, which is very well connected with all the major hubs, such as Auckland, Christchurch, and Wellington. It is only 2 hours drive from Queenstown, which is an international visitor destination, to Invercargill. So the population of Invercargill is just over 50,000, and the wider region is just over 100,000 people. With only 2% of New Zealand population, we account for 15% of New Zealand total export. So the major export goods are dairy products, meat, seafood, and forestry. Southland is also the second largest region in New Zealand, accounts for 12% of the land area, but 58% are public conservation land. So Fiordland National Park is not only the largest national park in the country, which also is a World Heritage Site. Manipuri Power Station, which is the largest hydropower station in the country, is just located at the edge of our national park. Our Southland GDP is around 6.6 billion each year. The region's economy is based on agriculture, tourism, fishing, forestry, and energy resources like hydropower. Due to the strong economy growth in recent years, we actually have one of the lowest unemployment rate in the country. So Great South, we're funded by 4 different local councils. As you can see on the slides, they are our long-term strategic goals. But we do have a very clear pathway to achieve those goals by implementing some of the short-term projects. We lead a regional approach to respond to the climate change and reduce carbon emission. We also lead economic resilience for the better future of our region, including encourage greater investment into the regional roading networks. We also facilitate some significant projects, such as the development of the hyperscale data center, green hydrogen production, and the space industry. We work very closely with the government agencies and partners to maintain skilled workforce in our region as well. Great South, we are very committed to identifying, developing, and also leading initiatives that support our regional economic diversification. As you can see on this slide, we have been focusing on those 4 areas. Agriculture, we work very closely with the private sector to develop new agriculture industry opportunities for seaweed, shellfish, and finfish. We have received a very strong interest from Korean market. Health and wellness products. We are also in the process of developing the first carbon neutral plant-based beverage manufacturing facility in the country. I will talk about the data and analytics in a minute. So on the hydrogen production, as I mentioned earlier, we have country's largest hydrogen power station. We have been working very closely with the central government and also multinational companies to develop the largest hydrogen production plant in New Zealand. As we all know, it's also an area of interest for Korean government as well. So talk about our space operations. Do you know, actually one of the New Zealand's largest commercial satellite ground station is actually located in Southland. It's owned by Great South. So high demand for ground station in Southern Hemisphere, as the most of them are in Northern. So Avarua is the perfect location when it comes to establishing a satellite ground station. It is as far south as you can usually get, and it is very flat, underpopulated, and without radio interference. So it puts us in a very good position to do frequency coordination right here in Invercargill. So before I talk about our satellite ground station's journey, I'll quickly explain what is actually a satellite ground station. So space operation engineers, they need to know the health of their satellites and be able to make any necessary onboard adjustments. Scientists and the data users need to download the data collected by the sensors in the spacecraft. This is where satellite ground station comes in at strategic locations around the world. Ground station antennas provide the necessary communication with the spacecraft. Without ground stations, nothing else works. Ground station may not be the sexy part of the space ecosystem, but it is critically important. If something goes wrong, we could be the first to know. And it's often up to our very talented engineers to come up solutions. So from this chart, you can actually see satellite ground station communicated with a satellite via radio signals. It has satellite dishes and ultra high frequency antennas and an equipment room on the ground. So talk about our journey. The European Space Agency needed an antenna in Southland for their International Space Station mission. So our satellite ground station was established back in 2004 for this purpose. So we began operation in 2008, has since become a key facility for many of the world's better known satellite operators, such as Rocket Lab and SpaceX. Greater demand for satellite images in near real time and integration data for decision making. We brought in additional investment, which enables us to add more antennas since 2015. We have already started looking for a new site at the top of the North Island to expand our operation and reach to the Pacific region in 2020. So I'll talk about our customers actually. So with our ground station facilities at Avarua, we support satellite missions and launch campaigns for international space agencies and all the big players in the small satellite community. We support most of our Rocket Lab missions from Mahia. Currently, we look after 11 international customers and track over 1,300 satellites each day. Many of you probably don't know, Rocket Lab's founder, Peter Beck, actually, he has been a great advocate for us and our region, and he's actually from Southland. So I'm going to talk about the benefits for our region. So the space operation has added significant value to our regional economy. Not only it brings significant investment into our region, also it creates new jobs in the telecommunication for our local companies. Satellites have underpinned technologies from phone networks to geolocation and a surveillance system. Our satellite ground station has been a platform for technology development and innovation in our region. And also, space operation enhanced the capability building of existing business in our region. From education perspective, it is fantastic to see we actually being able to engage and support local schools. So school and community outreach has always been a rewarding part of our work. It's great to see students get really, really excited during their visit. And actually, in fact, 2 of our engineers got inspired from their school trips 10 years ago and come back to work for us after they finished their uni. And also certainly attract a significant skilled workforce to our region as well. So I'll quickly talk about our Advanced Data and Analytics Center. As you can see on the slides, there's three sort of area or the services we offer. As I mentioned earlier, primary industry plays a huge role in our local economy, and we work very closely with the public and the private sectors, as well as our farmers, to provide a powerful tool for them to make decisions around land use, environment planning, winter grazing. We also support our stakeholders and the local councils on their strategic planning and the data needs as well. Apart from providing data, we also provide valuable insights, driving data-led business case development and strategic decision-making. We have been, such as a housing shortage, we've been working with land developers and property developers by providing valuable data and to design the suitable housing for our region, which has been a huge success. Some other projects we've been involved in is also very exciting, such as providing data and insights on the potential sites for the large-scale hydrogen production in our region. Our services and products are in high demand and has played a key role in shaping our Southland's future. We're very positive. Our futures are looking great. One thing I just want to add, Southland locals are very humble. They're hardworking, and more importantly, they have open hearts and minds, just like our friends in Korea. Thank you for your time, and it's a wonderful opportunity. And I look forward to welcoming you guys to our region very soon. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ella, and what a fantastic presentation on satellite ground stations, hydrogen production at a sort of a hyperscale, mega data centres. But what's also really important there is that it's all driven by renewable energy, and as Ella said, run by humble, hardworking Southlanders. Fantastic example of Kiwi innovation, right on the edge of the edge of the world in a way. What an exciting place to be and an exciting time to be in Southland. Now we'll turn to Priority 1 and Greg Simmons. Priority 1, based in Tauranga, my hometown, but no bias there at all. Certainly great to have Greg on the line, and looking forward to hearing about the work that Priority 1 are doing to continue to build an innovative region in that part of the North Island. So looking forward to hearing from you, Greg. Over to you now.
Koutou katoa, everybody, and thank you very much, Stephen, and thank you very much, Ella, too, for that fantastic presentation. So look, it follows a similar theme in terms of another area within New Zealand, and just giving a bit of a practical example of what we're doing in Tauranga to really leverage, I guess, the tech sector and startup ecosystem to add value to sectors in which we've got a comparative advantage and help solve some global problems. So Priority 1, all right, I'm just trying to move my screen on. Okay. Great South is the economic development agency for Tauranga City and the Bay of Plenty region. Our core role really is around creating prosperity for people within our community. And the key way that we do that is really on focusing on creating high value jobs and enabling local people to access those jobs. A key part of that, of course, is focusing on lifting our R&D intensity and tech capability within local businesses and key industries. But first, just to give you a bit of a context of where Tauranga sits in New Zealand, we are about 200 kilometres southeast of Auckland and 100 kilometres east of Hamilton. And together those three cities, Auckland, Hamilton and Tauranga, form New Zealand's economic golden triangle and is home to over half of New Zealand's total population, workforce and GDP. You can see the three cities are also quite complementary in terms of areas of comparative advantage, and increasingly the three cities are working much closer together in terms of labour movement and across sectors as well, particularly in areas like agri-tech. As a city, Tauranga got a population of 150,000 people, and the wider region 300,000 people. From a economic development perspective, we've got a relatively simple two-pronged strategy. One is really around accelerating our innovation system. So that's the bit that I mentioned around increasing R&D intensity and technology capability into our key industry sectors. And the second part is growing much more intelligently as a region. So really ensuring that what we do in the economic development perspective actually is really beneficial to our social, environmental and cultural outcomes that we're wanting to achieve as a city. If we look at just really focusing on our innovation ecosystem, really we're focused on four things here. Firstly, growing regionally distinctive and globally credible science and technology capability. And that's really to support the growth of our knowledge-intensive sectors. And I'll provide a specific example shortly on a particular case study. But the second broad theme is around building our network of physical and virtual innovation spaces and supporting them really to support knowledge flows and connectivity between government, local and central, industry, academia in terms of both capability and research. And we run things like our annual Festival of Innovation, which brings all those different components of the ecosystem together. And also we're building a number of physical spaces as well, both industry-led, and one of the ones that's most interesting for us at the moment is an Indigenous-led innovation space. Thirdly, we're looking at we develop local workforce capability for really to position us and to ensure that the local workforce is well equipped for the future. In this, we've really partnered with our university and we've developed a number of industry-led short courses in areas like artificial intelligence and design thinking, for example, which really provide people that are in companies locally with that opportunity to rapidly upskill with some of those skills that businesses are really needing these days. We also do a lot of work in the secondary and tertiary sector on internships and work experience, etc., and ensuring that our youth have good pathways into STEM subjects and career options. Fourthly, we are also a relatively recent university city. So our university campus of Waikato University opened in 2019. It was after quite a number of years of work to establish the university in the city. And as a result, we're currently working on a strategy for the city around leveraging that and creating Tauranga as that tertiary destination for study, and particularly how that we position ourselves as a great study destination leading into meaningful employment outcomes. But I'll come on to a case study, a short case study on our Plant Tech Regional Research Institute. Plant Tech was established in collaboration a couple of years ago in collaboration with the University of Waikato, ourselves and 8 commercial partners, including companies like Zespri, our kiwifruit marketing company, Robotics Plus and Blue Lab. Plant Tech's role is really to accelerate innovation and find solutions to horticultural challenges through artificial intelligence technology. And it leverages our city's strengths really in plant-based value chains, robotics, autonomous systems, and ensures that the hort sector is really remaining ahead of the economic, environmental, biosecurity, climate change, and crop health challenges that are facing not only New Zealand but many countries around the world. So Plant Tech's core focus really is on the commercial end of research and development to enable digital automation of devices for growers, and in supporting customised automated production systems that are accessible to all scale and size of business. An example is the use of computer vision to estimate the size of kiwi fruit directly on the vine, and allowing to dramatically increase the sample size without affecting the yield of the orchard. The challenge here for the team was to develop computer vision algorithms to perform this estimation using Zespri's existing camera system, which is already in use for collecting fruit count data. So really, just to summarise, I guess, Plant Tech's role in the regional innovation system, it helps to leverage the region's comparative advantage in horticulture, but encouraging in-house R&D and technology adoption across the sector, and contributing to high-value job growth in the agri-tech sector locally and across New Zealand. It also supports a range of pathways into secondary and tertiary students into STEM careers, and we have a range of initiatives underway there, including specific initiatives for our Māori and Pacifica youth. And it adds to the region's overall science, research and technology capability, which then in turn encourages further investments into facilities that support that. Thanks very much.
So much, Greg. Really appreciate that. What a fantastic presentation, and I really liked where you mentioned the Indigenous-led innovation space, and soon we'll hear from Jeremy Gardner about what work NZTE is doing to help assist Māori exporters. Awesome as well that there's that skills development component to the work that you're doing with Priority One, ensuring the development of future talent. And that Plant Tech example, I think, is a really good example of the agri-tech that we talked about yesterday, and so fantastic to have a real example coming out of Tauranga and in the kiwi fruit industry, which is so significant in the Bay of Plenty. So we'll now hear from Nick Larson from Callaghan Innovation. He's been involved in Scale Up New Zealand, fantastic initiative to build out and really understand and connect the tech ecosystem across New Zealand. So we've got Nick on the line, hopefully from Auckland, hopefully safe and well there. Over to you, Nick.
Great, thank you very much. Yep, safe and well in Auckland. So thank you very much for letting me speak. I'm pretty excited. So I'll run through what I'm doing over at Callaghan Innovation. I'll give you a bit of context about Callaghan Innovation as a whole, as a Crown entity and a government agency, and then more specifically around what we're doing to try and to address some of the government initiative to connect the ecosystem. My role there is I run a program an ecosystem platform called Scale Up New Zealand, and I'll jump into a little bit of detail on that. But for a bit of context around Callaghan Innovation, which is the overarching Crown entity that the product was born out of. And it all really started with this inspiring individual, this is the late Sir Paul Callaghan, who was a scientist in New Zealand. And he had this vision for the country, and he believes that we need to be working smarter and not harder, and really feels that it's innovation that can get us there, and it's fostering the entrepreneurs of the country that can really help us do that. And so it kind of underpins a lot of what we do at Callaghan Innovation. And it rings true when we talk about Scale Up NZ as a platform. So I guess consider that as I'm running through it. So just a little bit more context on Callaghan Innovation. So the purpose of us as an entity is to activate innovation, help businesses grow faster for a better New Zealand, and to really try and foster talent and make New Zealand a place where talent wants to live. And the mandate that we kind of live by is that we want to enable ambitious Kiwi businesses to accelerate growth through innovation. And the second one here, which is really what Scale Up is all about, and it's connecting that innovation ecosystem and driving collaboration. And the third piece here is around providing world-class research and development solutions to help businesses commercialize those ideas and services. And for a bit of context, there's 200 people who work within the agency, so we are relatively small from a global perspective, but we connect wide throughout the country. So jumping into it a little bit further, and this is really the place that I live and breathe and operate in, and that's Scale Up NZ, and that's an ecosystem platform, and the messaging here is that it's a place to find and connect with the most innovative companies in New Zealand. And it's a nice statement, and I guess kind of drilling even further down and going another level deeper. What actually is it? Well, it's a free online platform. It has a lot of insights and a whole lot of information about the innovation ecosystem, the innovation community. So there's so many smart people in New Zealand who are doing so many great things, and that's really what we're trying to do is uncover and connect the dots of who's doing what and where they're doing it. And it's not just about the guy who's sitting in his garage tinkering away on something innovative, that smart entrepreneur, but it's connecting that person with business leaders, with investment when they need it, and giving them arming them with wrapping around the right tools and resources through incubators and accelerators to really help foster and help that idea or business grow to the next stage. And that last bit there is around enabling connections to realize the opportunities, and that's I guess what an ecosystem is, and that's certainly that's the premise of what we're trying to do with Scale Up. So to kind of give you a little bit of an insight into what you'd see if you looked under the hood or if you went to the site. So it's a public site, and we've got so much great information on there. So you can see latest deals that have happened. You can see who's active on the platform. You can see what people are searching for. And you can also see where the investment's going into different sectors, whether it's money's flowing into agri-tech or whether is it going to digital healthcare. And this is all interactive information. So you can play around with these charts to help bring it to life a bit more. So how much investment has happened across different quarters, years, how many deals that have happened, and who are the companies that are operating in this space. So it really helps to, I guess we've aggregated a whole lot of information and tried to spit it back out in a more meaningful way that really helps to inform and lead to good decision-making purposes. So it's a platform for, and I'll talk to this piece later on, but it's a platform for obviously you can kind of see how this would really benefit the user, how it would really benefit someone who is in business, that entrepreneur, but also an investor. They can come in here and they can see, well, where are opportunities, where are businesses popping up, and how do they kind of get a view and a sense of who's who, and how do they try and jump on those opportunities as they happen. So there's some awesome insights that we've aggregated. And so for context, we have a team of 6. There's a team of 6 full-time people who manage the platform, and there's some automation which helps to pick up some information. But there's also a lot of people running pretty fast on a wheel to make sure that the information's up to date. And just kind of hitting this point home a bit. I mean, data itself is really, really good in one form, but it's even better when it kind of informs and tells a story. And that's really what this is a chart that we have on the site, and this just kind of shows you how everything's interconnected, where money's sitting, and this again is interactive, which you can drill in and play around with to see who's invested money where, and those kind of, it just helps to show those lines of money flow and connections in part. So yeah, it's a big web, and you can see that it really kind of brings home how much is happening. This is New Zealand data and New Zealand companies, and it really just kind of hits home how much is really happening across not only different industries but also across different regions, and from what type of investor. So how big is it, I guess? So we've mapped over 2,500 organizations, innovative companies. We've also got different angel groups from an investor side, and venture capital and PE firms on there as well. And then we showcase different incubators and accelerators on the platform, and a whole lot of different entrepreneurship programs. So what we've found is that there's a real this has really helped to connect the dots of that early stage investor or early stage innovator that's happening in New Zealand. And this here again is a chart that we have, or a version of a chart that we have on the platform. And this really just helps to show the different the geographical spread of the innovative activity that's happening across the country. And this is really great for a couple of different reasons. And one, if you are one of these companies that makes up the numbers here, then it allows you to kind of drill in. You can drill down on the map to see who your neighbour is that is doing innovative activity. But then, kind of more broadly, from a government perspective, it really allows us to make more informed, I guess, policy decisions. If we might see that there's some clean tech activity happening down on the west coast, and then there's that helps to inform whether we want to put some more investment in there. Does more resource need to be injected into that area to really kind of help foster that and wrap around the right support that those businesses might need? So sometimes when we're looking at this information on a spreadsheet, we kind of lose sight of what's happening where, and this is just a nice graphical way to see where the activity is happening and how to inform those decisions right across that decision-making process. So this is a nice graph, because this is from a global perspective, that whilst we have mapped a whole lot of innovative activity that's happening in New Zealand, those companies themselves have gone on to have international offices, and that's really awesome, because it kind of shows how strong we are, or where the opportunities are, and it kind of doesn't end with just looking at New Zealand in isolation, but there's a great wide world out there, and there's an abundance of opportunities, and this allows us to kind of show where activity is happening overseas, and also from a if you are one of these companies that's in the trenches trying to to kind of work on your idea or build out your company, you can start to see how you can connect on a wider scale to see who else is doing what, and to learn from other experts out there. So what's next for Scale Up? So I guess there's some awesome stuff that's happening on our roadmap. Some great things that are happening in the pipeline. We've mapped over $2 billion of investment on the platform, and we've been going for about 2 years now as a product. And that 2 years, we've learned a lot. We've kind of taken the idea to market. We've been able to get a whole lot of companies listed and profiled on the platform. We're able to play around with different visualizations to really showcase the different data that's on there. But now we're at a really nice point where we've got there's a good foundation of learnings there. We've got a really active user base. So we really want to kind of, for the next step, it's around continuing that government support, and that's linking in with the smart people in different government agencies, whether that's NZTE or whoever it might be. But what we've also found is that there's a real need to support those early stage innovators. We have a lot of those on the platform, but we also like to kind of, as an organization and as the Callaghan Innovation likes to encourage and support those kind of larger frontier innovators. But we're not going to get there unless we really wrap around the right support with the early stage activity. And so that's a real focus for us over this next chapter. Another thing too is that we really want to bring to life the global trends and start to compare what we're doing locally as a country, but also compare and see how we're trending and tracking and against the world, essentially. So what's happening elsewhere that we can learn from. And then the connections piece. We started out as a connections platform, and that's something that we want to really continue to do in a slightly different way than what we have in the past. I think we probably, when we launched 2 years ago, we thought we would, we thought that would give LinkedIn a run for their money in part, but what we've realised is that people want a different type of connection, and they want to be talking to smart people in business who have learnt great things, but they also want to be in there seeing if there's collaboration opportunities, and we really want to highlight that over this next chapter. And the last one there is around data partnerships. The data is so key to what we're doing. There's obviously the companies themselves and supporting them the best we can. But we also want to make sure that we're doing it in a smart way, and with the data, then that gives us the knowledge to make sure that we are focusing on the right areas. But also we want to share that data, so that it's a great wide world out there, and there's a lot of other great people who are doing great things, and I think there's a real opportunity to share what we're doing for a mutually beneficial outcome, and that's where that whole data partnership piece comes into it. And that is it. So thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thanks so much, Nick. And what an amazing platform, a real who's who of the tech ecosystem in New Zealand. So Nick knows everybody there. 2,500 contacts, not only in terms of the companies themselves, but that investor landscape as well. So fantastic insights there. Nick's going to be one of the judges in a pitching contest that the Kiwi Chamber are hosting a little bit later on today. So great to have his involvement. NZTE and Callaghan work very, very closely back in New Zealand, but also Nick, as he's mentioned, is looking to grow the ecosystem and connect ecosystems, is working with partner organisations here as well in Korea. So thanks once again, Nick. Our next presenter is Jeremy Gardner. He's Customer Director based in Auckland for NZTE. His role is to help grow our Māori export customers. Kia ora, Jeremy, great to have you on the call. Looking forward to hearing about the specific initiatives that you're working on with our innovative Māori customers. So over to you, Jeremy.
Kia ora, Stephen. Te mea hei mihi atu kia koutou katoa, hara mai nei ronga te karanga tēnei rā. Kia koe Stephen mō tō tīma i te mahi tēnei, kautū tēnei, hui tēnā koe o te rā tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora and annyeong haseo. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Look, I'm just going to talk a bit about how New Zealand Trade and Enterprise works with our Māori businesses. We've got a team that works specifically with Māori businesses. So sort of cover a little bit off about what Māori businesses are, what we do with them, and then maybe just towards the end, identify a couple of themes in Māori business. So just by way of background, Māori are the indigenous population in New Zealand, arrived in New Zealand around 1,000 years ago as part of the Great Pacific Migration. Population around 17% Māori population in New Zealand, and a very young population, 11-year difference between median age difference between Māori and the general population, and that'll speak to one of the trends that I'll talk about a bit later on. In terms of the Māori economy, the Māori economy is pretty diverse. There are three main business types: predominantly SME-led economy, very few large corporates, so mostly in that SME space, although it is changing over time. I guess the second main part of our economy are tribal enterprises, tribal groups, their assets, their investments. Traditionally been very primary sector led and producer led, although we are seeing some change, and again speaks to one of the trends I'll talk to a bit later on. And I guess finally, a third area of the economy are collectives based around land holdings. These are our traditional lands, farms, those sorts of enterprises. As I said, very heavy contributors to our agri and food sectors. Farming, dairy, forestry, fisheries, horticulture are all significantly fed by the Māori producers. Some very big dairy producers, large forestry holdings, biggest fishing companies. So a lot of food, a lot of agri, and we are seeing some changes to that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We are seeing quite a trend towards technology, and there are a number of themes that are influencing that. Our tech has predominantly, I guess, been in, as you might imagine, agri and food tech, as opposed to sort of maybe straight tech, although that is changing, and I expect that to change over time as the population changes. So that's what the Māori economy, about $69 billion worth of assets, as I said, predominantly a land-based economy. So New Zealand Trade and Enterprise works with Māori businesses for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's a significant part of our population, our economy. So if the Māori economy is working well, the New Zealand economy is working well. We work. There are cultural differences in the way that Māori businesses tend to operate, and so having skilled, experienced team members within NZTE to help understand those business models, the cultural requirements, those characteristics are really important. The government does have an obligation through our Treaty of Waitangi, which was the founding document signed between Māori and original British settlers. And so as part of that, we do have an obligation to work with Māori businesses, but actually, those other 2 points, it's really good for the New Zealand economy, and if they're successful, countries successful are probably more important to us. So just looking at companies, we work we have about 300 companies in our ecosystem. We work more intensively with about 100 of those companies. Given the sort of weight of the sector, the bulk of those are in F&B. There's about a quarter in manufacturing, and then about 20%, 20-25% tech and services. Now that's grown significantly over the past 10 years. There might have been 5% prior to that. So it's a fast-growing part of our economy, and we're seeing a lot more tech businesses coming through. And I'd just like to acknowledge the work that our regional economic agencies do to support and nurture those early-stage companies, and then through to Callaghan. So by the time they get to us, they're well along their export journey. In terms of the markets, we're working across, as you might expect, the main trading markets for New Zealand are heavily represented, and through to through IMEA, Middle East, and other countries. Looking at Korea specifically, we've got 14 customers active in Korea, which is, I guess, relatively low, and I think potentially, Japan was an early point for a lot of Māori exports, and then over time, as the China relationship has developed, we've seen significant entry into China by New Zealand companies, which has probably left exports to Korea through Māori companies relatively small compared. But in saying that, most of our big companies are active in Korea, our big fishing and food companies. So 13 of those 14 companies are F&B nutraceutical companies, and one tech company active in Korea. And I guess that's something for us to be thinking about as we get more tech companies, the opportunities to connect New Zealand and Māori tech companies with Korea, understanding the markets and the opportunities there is one of those opportunities for us. Just looking at some of the companies, the top two, Energenics and Honeylab, are our sort of nutraceutical companies, plant-based tech. So Energenics develops ingredients for nutraceuticals based on New Zealand foods, including kiwi fruits and berries and feijoas. There's the relationship with a Korean distributor to include those products in nutraceuticals. Honeylab, taking New Zealand honey into a pharmaceutical space, and they have a number of products that are pharmaceutically approved for use, including a cold store product. They are active in Korea. And then our tech company, Straker Translations, which utilizes AI, takes AI into the traditional translation space to improve both accuracy and efficiency and delivery of the translation process. So that's Straker has as one of our very few publicly listed Māori companies. So it's an interesting story in its own right. So I thought just to sort of wrap, I thought I'd just speak to a couple of themes in Māori business. I guess the one that's probably most relevant for this conversation is a move to technology, because of the relatively young nature of our population. I'd expect to see more and more tech companies coming through our ecosystem, and I think also because there are some structural issues with Māori companies raising capital and getting early stage and mid stage funding, growth funding, and so that sort of lightweight economy, tech-based economy, means that those Māori entrepreneurs are more likely to be able to get companies up and running than, say, a traditional food-based or large supply chain-based industries in which we've traditionally played. So, I think that's an interesting space to move to technology, and we'll see. You're already seeing, some very young Māori entrepreneurs coming through into TE with some really interesting export ideas. The second area is more of a national trend as we look to move from a commodity producer to a value food and commodity space, and that's particularly important for Māori producers, as they are large commodity producers. And so, you're seeing quite a lot of land-based Māori organisations moving up the value chain, potentially jumping straight to market as they look to innovative functional foods and using traditional Māori medicines and plants for innovation. And I guess the third one, which underpins a lot of this, is the importance of culture. Māori businesses, for the most part, rely heavily on cultural values, and they look for cultural alignment before they engage in business. And so I think there are opportunities there, particularly with countries that do have strong cultural, their own strong cultural attachments, to find where those cultures link and to explore those opportunities. And particularly, say, for Korean culture, there's a lot of similarities between some of the important things in Korean culture and some of the important things in Māori culture. And so, there's a really good base, I think, for future growth between Māori businesses and Korea. Look, that's it. We've got some time for questions, and we can always do that later. But thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. That's in really exciting times for Māori exporters. Young, innovative and motivated companies. I think that cultural alignment is a really good point that you raise at the end there, and I'd love to see more Māori tech companies and more Māori companies generally here in Korea, because I do think there's a fantastic alignment there, but also a real point of difference too in terms of what we can present to the Korean consumer and Korean end users as well. So thanks once again, Jeremy, and thanks to Ella and Greg and Nick as well. Certainly appreciate all your efforts in putting together those presentations. For those of you that want to reach out, we've got some questions. I'd suggest reach out directly to our panelists. Great to hear from you. If you've got questions generally, obviously email Gina Park, who you would have received the invitation from. So now it's a great pleasure to invite Moonjin Wu. Mr. Wu is a senior manager at SK Telecom with a specific focus on ESG. For those on the session from New Zealand, ESG is all over the newspapers here, all over, I guess, and a real fundamental issue and opportunity that Korean corporates and the Korean government is working on. So those are environmental, social and governance matters. And SK Telecom, which also like to acknowledge is now a sponsor of the Kiwi Chamber. So fantastic to have one of Korea's largest corporates involved with the Kiwi Chamber in that way, and Mr. Wu is going to talk around ESG innovation at SK Telecom. So fantastic to have you join us, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Can you see my screen?
Perfect, ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for good instruction. This is Moojin at the SK Telecom. So it is my honor to opportunity to talk about SK Telecom's innovation toward its excellence at the 2021 New Zealand Tech Roadshow. I would like to express my deep appreciation to the New Zealand Embassy Seoul and the Kiwi Chamber for hosting today's conference. Let me briefly talk about our company, SK Telecom. We are the #1 mobile network operator in Korea with about 50% market share and 30 million subscribers. We are one of the leading and the most innovative MNOs in the world. Regarding the global technology leadership, we launched the world first 5G smartphone service in 2019. We launched the world first 2G service in 1996. Since then, we have been the global leader in 3G and 4G as well. This is about our ESG management strategy and 2050 goal. The first, in the environmental aspect, is to achieve zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. Next, in the social aspect, we intended to create social value equivalent to 10% our company sales. And in terms of the governance prospect, we will pursue 100% of corporate transparency. I will talk about specific plan and progress in the next slide. This is about our social value performance. SK Telecom would like to contribute not only to financial performance, but also to promote stakeholders' happiness at the same time. We created indirect economic contribution worth of $1.4 billion, which mainly include employment, dividend, and tax created by our economic performance. We also generate business social performance worth of $200 million, which include 96 million of negative performance due to environmental impact caused by carbon emission. We generated $300 million through business-related social projects such as the prevention of car accidents by utilizing our navigation system called map and called community, and the prevention of the rising crime such as voice phishing. In total, we generated 1.7 billion of social value performance, which account for more than 10% of our sales. It is a commitment to our society that we will continue to create social value and that account for more than 10% of our sales in the future. We are actively pursuing carbon reduction efforts to respond to the global crisis, the biggest challenge facing the world today. To do so, we joined RE 100 for the first time in Korea. RE 100 is the global corporate renewable energy initiative committed to 100% renewable electricity. We had 1 million tons of carbon emission in 2020, and mostly caused by our network infrastructure and office building. With our reduction effort, carbon emission is expected to increase 2.1 million tons in 2030 due to expanding the installation of 5G or 6G base stations. Through reduction activities such as renewable energy and optimization of network equipment and infrastructure, we have set a challenging target to reduce 40-60% of 2020 carbon emission by 2030. We also plan to increase renewable energy use up by to 65% by 2030. Through these efforts, we will achieve complete net zero by 2050. We may think of collaboration with New Zealand tech company to achieve the goal. This is about the post-COVID safety net with our AI technology. Under the difficult situation of COVID-19, we implemented AI care call service, an AI-powered automated check-in call service to monitor potential COVID-19 symptoms. The AI solution had called to 270,000 active monitoring subjects with more than 3 million calls, which reduced public health centers' workload by up to 85% and detected the most potential impacted people through the interview process. Regarding AI care service, we help seniors living alone to have a better life. They are socially isolated and difficult to get outside information. Sometimes they are dying alone. The AI care assistance is very helpful in taking care of emotion of the older people. Comparing the result before and after the use of AI service, the feeling of happiness, the sense of optimism increased. Also in result, the sense of loneliness and negative emotion will decrease a lot. We are helping to have a better life of quality with our AI technology. This is about our digital inclusion activity. As the digitization dramatically increased, the rate of change and the pace of innovation, it can be widened digital gap in our society. We help our community to bridge the digital gap. We launched digital device education program for older people, helping them to set up their phones, use social media, and learn more about their devices. Regarding job creation support program for the middle-aged jobless, in cooperation with the National Pension Service of Korea, we support to get ICT-related job. ICT Makeathon and Happy Coding School help young people with disability develop their digital skills. In summary, those various ICT education programs contribute to bridging the gap to more than 100,000 people. We will continue to support customized lifelong education for the underprivileged to the bridge the gap digital device. This series of progress cannot be done by our company alone. We wanted to expand our business ecosystem through close collaboration with our partners. It is very important to be together and to prosper together. We have built open innovation ecosystem with innovative startups to solve the problem. Through innovation is our accelerating startup program. The program has been supporting up to more than 300 innovative startups, 420 million was invested with the support of 100 companies. Among these supporting companies, the market value of the major 120 companies is 2.4 billion as of today. Impact Ops is another open innovation program. The program supports startup companies with the innovative ICT capability, such as 5G, AI, to achieve both ESG value and business growth at the same time. The program has accelerated 20 startups which are working to solve environmental issues to help to support the disabled and social issues and so on. We are also looking for innovative collaboration partners to accelerate the transformation at ESG sectors and looking forward to discussing partnership opportunity with a New Zealand company. Thank you. That's all for my presentation.
Munjin, thank you so much for that. And I mean, just to put into context, Munjin works for SK Telecom, Korea's largest mobile network operator. When you think that Korea is the most connected country in the world, it just gives a sense of the scale of Munjin's work there at SK Telecom. So fantastic to get that insight as to what you're working on in terms of not only the environmental challenges and opportunities, but that social good element. And when we talk about the theme of this Tech Roadshow, which is people and the environment, the work that you're doing is exactly in that space. Your call and invitation for through open innovation to collaborate with New Zealand tech companies, is fantastic, and we'll look forward to continuing to work with you on that, to link you to New Zealand tech companies to help take on those global challenges and the challenges that SK Telecom are seeking to address. Once again, it's awesome to have SK Telecom as a sponsor of the Kiwi Chamber. So thanks once again to SK Telecom, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all our sponsors and supporters, the Kiwi Chamber, the Seoul Metropolitan Government, and the Invest Seoul Centre. Certainly the sponsors of the Kiwi Chamber that have been with the Chamber over a number of years, and fantastic that SK Telecom has joined us. We're now, and here are our fine sponsors and supporters up on the screen there as well. So thanks for your continued support. We'll now soon be moving to a pitching contest, which is going to be, we've got 3 judges: Olivia Theus from NZTE, Will Charles from Uni Services, and Nick Larson, who you heard from before from Callaghan Innovation. Fantastic that they are able to join the pitching contest, and they will be judging the technologies of 4 Korean tech startups. You Like Korea, and there will be a presentation and a pitch by Steve Kim. AI Dot, Jane Jung will be pitching for them. Omoli, Minji Kang will be pitching for that tech startup, and Hello Factory, Jongseung Kim will be pitching. This is a fantastic opportunity to link Korean startups with New Zealand as well, as an initiative that Gina Park has been working on with the Invest Seoul Centre to better link and connect New Zealand and Korean tech companies. That pitching contest will unfortunately not be live streamed, but we will follow up with the results of that, and we'll leave you now with a video for those that have dialed in or joined us on the live stream. Thank you once again for joining the Tech Roadshow. Thanks for your interest, for your messages, greatly received, and obviously continue the conversation, please. So send through any comments and feedback that you have to Gina. And thanks once again for all the support of the Kiwi Chamber. Look forward to seeing you all sometime soon. Stay safe. Kia kaha. Thank you.
New Zealand has so many gifts to the world. If you talk to anybody who's been there, it's a magical place.
I just love flying in and seeing how green the place is. It just takes me all the way back to my childhood.
We're not just a country of beautiful mountains, we're so much more than that. Historically, we've just done things that other countries haven't done before.
New Zealand is a great place to make things, to initiate ideas.
And to take those ideas and share them with the world drives a huge part of the New Zealand culture.
We have ingenuity that allows us to be creative and bring it to the world with limited resources, and we do that here in New Zealand all the time.
We're launching rockets in New Zealand. How cool is that?
Right now in the world, there's 2 companies delivering satellites to orbit, Elon Musk and SpaceX, and there's Rocket Lab.
New Zealand is right in there. The capability they've created is paradigm breaking.
And it's all happening out of Mahia, New Zealand.
New Zealand brings together both technology and creativity, and that's why we're so good at innovating.
You know, a lot of people, when you say creative, they think arts. But you can create in engineering. You create things where there was nothing, and that's an incredible thrill.
And at Google, we love Kiwis because Kiwis come up with ways to solve problems in ways that people from other places wouldn't necessarily even attempt.
Best in the world at producing eccentric inventors. The whole America's Cup thing, you know. There's a guy up in Warkworth that had the idea of turning the centerboards into hydrofoils, and look at them now.
We think outside the box and then just get on with it.
And if we don't know how to do it, we figure it out.
You're looking for people who are just going to make things happen. New Zealand research on information retrieval was one of the core pieces that made Google successful.
And New Zealanders solve huge global healthcare problems.
We have some of the best doctors in the world. I should know.
We do extraordinary things on the world stage around healthcare. We're arguably the cleverest country on the planet.
We have very talented people who succeed in many technologies. Whether it's marine, screen, software, we innovate.
Technology is soaring there. Look at the movies they make.
Warner Brothers invested in New Zealand because New Zealand's reputation is second to none. We're the best content on the planet.
They do the best visual effects ever.
The world has got a lot to learn from New Zealand in terms of the way that we invent technologies and look after each other as well. And that's what makes us different, I think.
We have a collective responsibility to our land and to our future generations, which in Māori we call kaitiakitanga.
We're on a mission to make better things in a better way and tread more lightly in the way that we make products, to be thoughtful about the environment.
And, you know, when you think about the power that a small country can have in influencing the rest of the world, you know, I think New Zealand does sit there.
We dare to dream. Everybody has belief that they can change the world, because we have, and we will continue to do so.
Welcome to the country of open spaces. Where nature bursts and flows. Where the elements